Hey there, fellow gardeners, it's your friend from Roothaven Grounds, and I'm about to share something that's going to completely transform how you think about feeding your soil this November. Forget everything you know about expensive fertilizers and complicated soil amendments. What I'm about to reveal is so simple, so powerful, and so ridiculously effective that you'll wonder why you've been spending money on bags of synthetic fertilizer all these years. November is that magical time when most gardeners think the growing season is over and pack away their tools. But here's the secret the old-timers knew, and modern gardening has forgotten. November is actually when the real magic happens underground. While your plants are going dormant and the world above ground quiets down, your soil is primed and ready to become a thriving ecosystem that will set you up for the most abundant growing season you've ever experienced. What I'm talking about is actively aerated compost tea, and before you roll your eyes thinking this is just another gardening fad, hear me out. This isn't your grandmother's compost water that sat in a bucket for weeks. This is a scientifically backed, microbially rich liquid gold that will literally bring your soil to life in ways that no chemical fertilizer ever could. The reason November is the absolute perfect time for this application is because your soil temperature is still warm enough for microbial activity, but your plants aren't actively growing and demanding nutrients. This means all those beneficial bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and nematodes you're introducing have time to establish themselves, multiply, and create a thriving soil food web before spring arrives. It's like throwing a house party for the good guys in your soil, and by the time planting season rolls around, they've renovated the entire place. Here's something that, honestly, changed my entire approach to gardening at Roothaven Grounds. Fertilizers feed plants, but compost tea feeds the soil. And when you feed the soil feeds your plants better than you ever could with a bag of NPK numbers. Think about it this way. When you pour synthetic fertilizer on your garden, you're essentially spoon-feeding your plants. They become dependent on you for every meal. But when you build a healthy soil ecosystem with compost tea, you're teaching your soil to be a self-sustaining buffet. The microorganisms break down organic matter, make nutrients available in forms plants can actually use, improve soil structure, suppress diseases, and even help plants resist pests. It's not just nutrition, it's creating an entire support system. I've seen compacted clay soil transformed into crumbly, earthworm-rich paradise in a single season using this method. I've watched plants that struggled year after year suddenly thrive without any additional fertilizer. The difference isn't just visible, it's dramatic. Now, let's get into the practical stuff because, honestly, knowing why something works is great, but knowing how to actually do it is what gets results in your garden. So, you'll need a 5-gallon bucket and aquarium pump with an air stone, about 2 to 3 cups of high-quality finished compost, a tablespoon of unsulfured molasses and dechlorinated water. If your tap water is chlorinated, just let it sit out for about 24 hours, or hey, use rainwater if you've got it. Fill your bucket with water and drop in your air stone that's connected to the pump. Add your compost, and this is crucial, it needs to be good compost. I'm talking about dark, earthy-smelling, fully decomposed compost, not half-finished stuff with recognizable food scraps. The quality of your compost really determines the quality of your tea. Then add your molasses, which is what feeds the microorganisms and helps them multiply rapidly. Turn on that pump and let it bubble away for about 24 to 36 hours. You want constant aeration because the beneficial organisms we're cultivating are aerobic. They need oxygen. If you let the tea go anaerobic by not aerating it properly, you'll end up with a stinky, potentially harmful brew that can actually hurt your plants. So, keep it bubbling, and you'll know it's ready when it has a pleasant, earthy smell and maybe some foam on top. Here's where timing and technique really matter. You want to apply your compost tea within 4 to 6 hours of finishing the brewing process. Once you turn off that pump, the microorganisms start dying off pretty quickly without fresh oxygen. This is living biology we're working with, not chemicals that just sit stable on a shelf. For your garden beds, use a watering can or a sprayer and drench the soil thoroughly. You want to get that tea deep into the root zone where it can do its work. I typically use about 1 gallon of finished tea per 100 square feet of garden bed. Don't be shy with it. You literally cannot overdo compost tea. The worst that happens is you waste some, because the soil can only hold so many microorganisms. November application is particularly powerful because as the weather cools and your garden transitions into dormancy, those microorganisms have all winter to establish themselves in the soil ecosystem. They're not competing with active plant roots for space and resources, they're building the foundation for spring. This is the part that gets me genuinely excited about gardening every single time. Within hours of applying your compost tea, billions of beneficial microorganisms begin colonizing your soil. Bacteria start breaking down organic matter and making nitrogen available. Fungi extend their high-fall networks, connecting plants and underground communication systems and helping them access phosphorus and other nutrients. Protozoa start hunting bacteria and in doing so, release nitrogen in plant-available forms. Your soil structure begins to improve as fungal hyphae and bacterial secretions glue soil particles together, creating the perfect balance of air and water-holding capacity. Beneficial organisms suppress disease-causing pathogens by outcompeting them for resources, and sometimes even by producing antibiotics. This is nature's own biological control system, and it's more sophisticated than anything we could engineer. By the time spring arrives, your soil isn't just dirt anymore. It's a living, breathing ecosystem ready to support the most vigorous plant growth you've ever seen. Your seeds will germinate faster, your transplants will establish quicker, and your plants will be naturally more resilient to stress, pests, and diseases. I've been using this November compost tea application strategy at Roothaven Grounds for 3 seasons now, and honestly, the transformation has been nothing short of remarkable. My tomatoes went from producing decent yields to absolutely loaded plants with fruit so flavorful that neighbors ask what my secret is. My struggling blueberry bushes suddenly took off with vigorous growth and abundant berries. Even my perennials, which were just kind of existing before, started flourishing with stronger stems and more prolific blooming. The best part? My fertilizer costs dropped to almost nothing. I make 1 or 2 applications of compost tea in November, maybe another in early spring, and that's it. No more weekly feeding schedules, no more bags of fertilizer piling up in the shed, no more worrying about burning plants with too much synthetic nitrogen. The soil does the work now, and I just support it occasionally with more beneficial biology. If you take away just one practice from everything we talk about here at Roothaven Grounds, make it this November compost tea application. It's the single most impactful thing you can do to build genuinely healthy, productive soil that will reward you season after season. This isn't a quick fix or a miracle cure, but it is the foundation of regenerative gardening that actually works. The investment is minimal, a bucket, a cheap aquarium pump, and some good compost, but the returns are extraordinary. You're not just feeding this season's plants, you're building soil health that compounds year after year. That's the kind of gardening that's sustainable, economical, and, honestly, deeply satisfying. So this November, while other gardeners are closing up shop for the season, I want you to brew up a batch of compost tea and pour it on your beds. Watch what happens next spring, and then come back and tell me about it in the comments. Better yet, subscribe to Roothaven Grounds so you don't miss the follow-up videos where I'll show you exactly what these treated beds look like come springtime compared to the control beds. Share this with your gardening friends who are tired of expensive fertilizers that don't deliver lasting results. Together, we're going to grow better gardens by growing better soil. Let's make this the best growing season yet, starting right now, in November, when the real garden magic begins underground.